hopefully
Only
that's
meeting
visible now.
host. So I'm just going to record you. That looks like what we're going to do. Okay. Looks like it's going to work. Don't know if I've done the right thing there, but there you go. Right. So welcome everybody. Nice to see you all here. Simon and I have known each other for many years, off and on, in different sort of guises, and contacted me about a month or so ago, and talking about AI and what it's doing, and I'm using it more and more in my own business, and I've got clients using it, and it's certainly the big talk, certainly around the country, if not and the world as well, of what it can do. But I think there is this sort of a lack of understanding. We just don't know where it's going to go, and it's constantly changing. So Simon said he'd come along, put a bit of an insight into where currently AI is within a business environment, and explore some of those. And then he's also doing a far more detailed sort of day in depth looking at your business and how AI can actually really be used and adapted to suit many different roles, and actually start to really bring it into your organizations as well. But he'll sort of talk about that a bit later on. So I will hand over to Simon, and we'll sit back and hopefully enjoy the show. So
Great.
away you
Thank
go.
you very much, Kevin. And yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Thanks for putting this together. And I will try and yeah, impart as much value as I can on the subject of AI, which I think for people holds different feelings and emotions attached. I think we've got some people, a lot of people, which are quite apprehensive and see it as um, a threat of some kind, and others are really excited about the opportunities that it presents. But one thing we know for sure is that it is, if not coming, it's already here, but it's only here in part. It's very early stages, and there's an awful lot of development that is still to come, and we want to make sure that you guys are best positioned to take advantage of the opportunities and kind of get hold of almost an unfair advantage while it still exists if you can stay in the top 1% of AI usage relevant to your peers. So I don't know whether I should be apologizing for the sort of the dramaticness of this opening slide, but probably not, because I think it is true. Just a little bit of background, so you know who I am and who's presenting to you today. So I am, just like the majority of you, an entrepreneur and business owner, and I've been involved in various different businesses over the last few years. Typically, the most of the business I've been involved in have had a recruitment flavor to them, not exclusively, but for the most part. And that began to change from the advent of ChatGPT's launch, if you like, which was in late 2022. And that really caught my attention. I was fascinated by it, and wanted to leverage the value that it could offer within the businesses that I was involved in at the time. And I'm just going to make sure that everyone's disappeared for a second. So, no, you are still there. That's good. um, where's the slides gone? I've messed it up now. There we go. Right. Yeah, so late 2022, started using it and getting a lot of value from it in early 2023. And I wanted to take it further, and I wanted to kind of embed it into businesses' processes and systems much more significantly. And I really struggled. And I just remember wishing that there was like an almost an outsourced service out there, or someone could guide me through this process and help me make more progress with it than I was able to on my own. Just like you would outsource to, an HR advisor or a bookkeeper, or bring in someone like Kevin to advise you on these sort of business strategies and skill sets overall. There wasn't anybody that I could reach out to help me with specifically the challenges that I was looking at on the AI side of things. And somehow, I sort of persevered. I learned a lot, achieved some good things, failed with a lot of other things, but learned from it. And that's kind of morphed into what is now TechBake, which is an AI advisory service for business owners and leaders to help them yeah, more time effectively achieve good things and embed AI in proactive, safe ways that add a lot of value to the business, yeah, more smoothly. So that's my role now. Um, yeah, I'm not from a computer science background, but I have spent an awful lot of time trying to look into this and learn about it on my own behalf, but also now on the behalf of our clients. Um, I really like to start with this quote because I think it really nicely sets the scene from Sam Altman of OpenAI, which is the owner of ChatGPT. If you think that you understand the impact of AI, you do not understand and have yet to be instructed further. And if you know that you do not understand, then you truly understand. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Um, but for me, I think it really nicely sets the scene of certainly where we are at the moment on the AI developmental journey. And I think this is kind of a silent admission from him that even he struggles to imagine where AI might take us in, 1 or 2 years' time, or even 6 months' time. And if he can't get his head around that, then where does that leave us humble business entrepreneurs? And I think it leaves us in a place where we have to be really, really agile and keep our ear to the ground and make sure that we're um, absorbing and learning as much as we can, but in a time efficient way and a way that's appropriate to all of our other responsibilities as business owners or leaders. And a lot of you will recognize this chap as well, Jeff Bezos of Amazon. I think this key is really, really useful. It's more specifically about businesses, so relevant to this webinar. And the key, so he said, the key with AI is to help businesses make better decisions faster and at scale. And this is why AI is going to be so transformative. And but I think with this quote, that word decisions is key because, truth be told, it's not just decisions. You could replace that word with all manner of different things. So it might be better products or services. It might be better information. It might be better safety, better lightness, whatever it might be that you're trying to achieve in terms of adding more value to your end clients. AI can help us achieve with all those things, but we just need to break that down and understand how and the most efficient ways of achieving that. And for clarity, what we're talking specifically when we're talking about AI is generative AI, because AI has been around for a really long time. And in fact, every time that you've Googled for the last 15 years or so, that's a form of AI. But that is effectively retrieval AI. So it's using artificial intelligence to go and recognize something that's associated with what you're looking for and then bring that back to you like a trusted Labrador. But it doesn't generate anything. And that's what this is the game changer that we're all kind of trying to keep pace with at the moment. And generative AI isn't that new either. But what has changed is that us mere mortals in business have now got access to these incredibly powerful tools, which would otherwise only have been available to the Googles and Amazons of the world prior to late 2022 when ChatGPT changed everything by making it free for anyone in the world. Just to touch on what generative AI actually is, I've got a definition here, and I'll give you an example as well. So generative AI is a computer program that's been trained to understand patterns in data, and that data could come in any form. But the same applies. It learns patterns in data, and these language models, like ChatGPT or a handful of others, they have been trained on huge amounts of data. So whatever the subject, they've seen millions of examples and therefore can recognize very, very consistent patterns. And they use those patterns to then generate original content that is based on what you've asked for. So the example that I'll give you is if we take a step back from the world of AI and put it into more organic terms again, we'll look at two different chefs. We'll compare a professional chef that has been in the business for 20 years, has cooked thousands of different dishes, has looked at lots of different origins of food, understands all the flavors, understands the health and safety, cooking times, weights and measures, etc. Because they've built that data up through experience. They understand and they have that context and to lean on. And the other chef is me, who is not a chef, who likes to cook things as quickly and efficiently as possible and hope that it tastes okay. And if you asked both me and a professional chef to cook a lasagna, I would have to consult a recipe because I don't have those patterns built in my brain. Um, Whereas a professional chef, even if he'd never cooked a lasagna before, would probably, through experience, be able to lean on those patterns in data, if you like, through their experience and come up with something that would be pretty damn good and resemble a lasagna. Whereas I would have to follow a recipe. So in this case, the professional chef is effectively doing what generative AI does, which is use those patterns in data, use their experience to generate something that's brand new, that's completely original, but is accurate and correct and appropriate based on what you've asked for. So hopefully that kind of gives you some context of what is actually happening with generative AI. Okay, so when we're looking at use of AI in business, I like to think of it in three core categories, and the first of which is consumer contact. So this might be, and I imagine when I say consumer contact, you've probably already got something in your mind, and it might be a chatbot, it might be social media content, or it might be imagery, which is a really, really hot topic over the last couple of weeks with some big advances in AI's capability to generate images and writing within images, which is a problem before. But anything that you're putting in front of your consumers that's generated by AI. The next is, if you like, a thought partner or something or someone, digital someone that you can bounce ideas around to get inspiration, share some information with and ask for feedback, or if you're struggling for creative ideas, to ask for some inspiration, etc. And I can give you one example, which I will always remember, which was early last year when I was on holiday, and it was about the point where I'd kind of decided I was going to launch Tech Bake, but I was still very much fleshing out the details of how it would work and what it would look like. And I was in Turkey, and the sun was going down, and I took myself to the far end of the beach because I thought it would be a bit weird to have a conversation with an AI in front of a load of other people. Maybe it would be more socially accepted now, I'm not sure, but certainly even a year ago, that would have been very weird. And I had a conversation for about 40 minutes through voice conversation, two-way. And I think that was with Google's Gemini. And I was just bouncing ideas around and asking for thoughts and feedback and having a conversation about how to structure a training day. And got some really good ideas, got some thoughts and feedback. And I didn't have a notepad or pen, but it didn't matter because that was all being transcribed and is still available today. If I wanted to refer back to that conversation, I could still pull that up very easily from the history to remind myself of what was discussed. But it gave me some really, some things came from that conversation with an artificial person, which did impact the direction that I took from there. So that's an example of a thought partner side of it. And then the third is the super assistant side. So any task that you are still doing that is not fun, a bit repetitive, or just not appropriate use of your time, and historically might have been given to someone else in your team, or maybe even outsourced externally from your business, it may now be able to be done by AI. So, examples of that might be summarizing data or data analysis. It might be writing emails or social media content for you, all sorts of different things. And the key to that, obviously, is training an AI on your information, which we'll touch on in more detail later, to make sure that it can do that accurately, not just based on the language models training and the vast amount of data that it has externally of your business, but is also knowledgeable about the inner workings of your business as well, just like an employee would be. But of course, just like an employee, you have to train the AI to get it to that point as well. But it can be a really, really effective super assistant for you. So when we start to think, I suppose I should say, I'm pitching this webinar fairly high in the sense that I am trusting that most of you will already have made some really good progress of, using AI for yourself to generate various different things and try different things and make your life easier internally, but not necessarily, at least openly, putting that in front of your end users. So let's talk about when we take AI and not just use it internally, but also then start to put that outside of your business as well in an interactive and live sense, because I know that terrifies some people, and I think it's worth exploring the mindset and the realities in around that as well. So we've got some data from Forbes here, which I find mind blowing still, even though I've read this and presented it a few times now. But they found that companies using AI in sales have found that they are getting 50% increase in leads. So they're getting half as many leads as they were prior to using AI, which is pretty cool. But even more impressively, they are doing it for less than half the cost. So they're saving up to 60% of the cost of those leads, getting half again, but costing less than half of what they were paying in the first instance. So for me, that's, we'd all like a piece of that, wouldn't we? And I know Kevin mentioned that one of the big challenges of your client base at the moment is generating leads as well. And AI clearly, according to Forbes' research, is doing some really good things there. They associated most of the reduction in cost to a reduction in call time as well. So people phoning and asking for whether it's customer service or maintenance or sales, whatever it might be. But they're saving a lot of manpower, which is obviously very expensive, especially these days, by using those AI tools externally in their business to take some of the weight out of the heavy lifting. And then moving on to a different source as well. So this is by a company called Replicant. They did a survey and found that 80% of customers actually prefer to speak with an AI. And the reason they gave for their study was to avoid hold times. But in regular conversation with lots of different businesses and consumers, we've been able to kind of flesh that out a little bit more and give it a bit more context. So yes, absolutely. If you don't now need to phone a business and stay on hold to find the information that you need, then that's a big win for your end consumer as well as your business, because you're going to save a huge amount of time and money by going down that road as well. But the other reasons people prefer it as well is they don't have to speak to any trainees that or call operatives that maybe don't have the answers that they're looking for, because the good thing about AI, whether it's a chat bot or it's a voice bot or whatever format it's in, it can handle an infinite amount of conversations at any one time, and therefore there's no hold time. But also, all of those conversations will be with the same, albeit in inverted brackets, person, if you like. So if you've put the time to train them to a really, really decent standard, then they will be getting that quality of conversation regardless, so that your users won't end up conversing with someone that maybe doesn't have as many answers as someone else, or for it have to be escalated to a senior member of the team to then come back to them at a later stage, etc. And the last big benefit is, as our youngest demographic start to rise into the age of consumerism, and then eventually the employment market, and then I guess leadership. These are the people that are most familiar with and comfortable with liaising with machines and artificial intelligence. And conversely, they have an aversion to speaking with humans if they don't necessarily need to. So that takes it even further. And I think, as they come of age, if you like, that's only going to further the benefit of using AI externally of your business and putting it in front of your clients, and take away any of the risks or the perceived concern. Because I know that when speaking to a lot of businesses, their initial reaction, based on their own experiences and own kind of, we all have our own understanding of the world as we see it. And I was the same initially. The natural feeling for a lot of people is they won't like it. They'd much prefer to speak to a real person. But actually, hopefully, this slide and this information helps you at least question your own belief or standpoint on that, and maybe encourages you to maybe engage with your own clients to find out how they might really feel about that, or test it in some way. Because if you can get over that fear, if it's a false fear, then that opens you up to a whole world of huge savings, huge opportunity. Um, yeah, and a lot of potential value and benefit for your clients as well as your business. Okay. Right. So what we've got in front of us here is effectively a formula that we developed based on our interactions to various different businesses that we think is the core components of what would lead to successful results within, advanced AI usage, I suppose, in a business context. And the very first of that, of course, is business talent. And it's not for me to get involved with that. AI really, all it does is it magnetizes and multiplies what you already have. It can put it on steroids, but that business talent and that core value needs to exist. Haven't got a huge amount to say on that, other than to say that will still remain as important as it is today. And obviously, a lot of you know and work with Kevin, and he's exactly the right type of person to work with to further that and work on the overall business structure and talent. And the other three are things that I think are worth me touching on from the perspective of AI and how it can be developed on top of your existing business talent. And the first is that data structure side of things. So I guess one thing to explain is AI can only really be as good as the information that it has access to. And these language models, they are all trained. So by language model, I mean, so ChatGPT is an example of a language model, and it is trained on a huge amount of data. That's not the World Wide Web. None of these language models are released to train themselves on everything, because if they did that, then they'd have some fairly extremist views and very inaccurate views, which of course isn't what anybody wants. So that data is carefully selected, but it is a massive amount of data. So that might dispel a couple of common misconceptions potentially about these language models, but they don't include your information. They don't include anything specific about your business other than what is potentially publicly available. But of course, that changes all the time. And these language models are actually very, very out of date. They still have cutoff dates, which are surprisingly long ago. And I should have looked up what ChatGPT's most recent one is as an example, but it's probably mid last year, realistically. So it knows very little, if anything, about your business. And you need to make sure that you have your data arranged and available in such a way that you can train the AI on your information. And going back to your employee analogy, you wouldn't, even if it was a really experienced employee, you wouldn't just bring them into the business and expect them to do a good job. You would know that in order to represent your business, they would need to understand your inner workings. They'd need to understand your sales processes, your HR manual, your staff handbook, etc. The things that make your company unique, the service offerings you have, all of that needs to be taught. But the great news, of course, is that AI is an incredibly fast reader and it has near perfect memory. So it isn't that hard to teach it to a really, really high standard, but it does need that data. And by data structure, really what we're talking about is all of the things that you want it to know, and having them in a convenient place where you can grab that and either drag it and drop it into the models as you need, or you can kind of digitally stitch it and sync it through some form of technology like a webhook, where it can go and get that information as it needs it. And really, the best places to keep them are something like a Google Drive or a SharePoint, which is cloud-based, which you're probably doing it already. The only thing I would say is you just need to separate this super sensitive stuff and keep that out of your main business data pool, because you don't want to be sharing anything that's highly sensitive, whether that's high value business secrets, or whether it's really, really sensitive or high risk personal data, etc. You wouldn't want any of that in there. But otherwise, why not have it available so that you can utilize AI for much more powerful use cases? So that's data structure. And then we've got AI literacy. So AI literacy is your skill set for the most part at least, your skill set in and around AI usage. And I can tell you now that your AI literacy will define more than anything your future relationship with AI. It is, I think the trouble with AI is it seems so easy. You can jump on there and you can type whatever you like, and amazing things start to happen really quickly, which fools us into thinking that it's really, really simple and there's no skill involved. But actually, that's very far from the truth. And I have a lot of conversations with people that will go something along the lines of, well, yeah, I've tried AI and I do use it for certain things, but it's got major limitations and it doesn't really give me exactly what I want. So I tend not to use it for the majority of things. And 99 times out of 100, that will usually be because they just haven't had that, they haven't had someone show them how to use it in a more efficient way. So your AI literacy, I think, is something that we all need to kind of stop and take note of and see as an actual thing that we need to work on, because it will make a huge difference to your ability to march forward and gain that value from AI. Aside from, oh, no, I've missed a slide somewhere. No, I haven't. Apologies. Let's go back to it. So what I will do is, I think we've just about got time to kind of whistle through a little bit of skill set, if you like, within your prompt engineering and your AI literacy. So with your prompts, we need to make sure that we're achieving a few things. And your prompt might be in the format of just jumping into a language model and asking it to do something, or it might be that it's a prompt that sits within an automation. So automating AI to create an automatic process or a workflow within your business. But either way, it still needs to have a really good structure in order for it to be as effective as possible. And so I've developed my own because I couldn't find a structure that worked for me or that was memorable enough or that would tick all the boxes. And hopefully this is rememberable enough. So it's actor, albeit spelled slightly wrong. And the first is your whatever language model you're using, whatever AI tool you're using, it will have so much knowledge about so many different things, and it really needs to know clearly exactly which part of that knowledge it needs to hone in on and double down on. So the first component is act as. Is it acting as a legal advisor, or is it acting as a GP, or is it acting as a copywriter with a niche within computer science? It needs to know what part you want it to play, first and foremostly. So the first part of my prompt would be act as X. The second is the context, which can come in two forms. It might be specific data that you need to make use of. So it might be, in this case, we're talking about a job description and a CV. So it can look at those two and explore the relationship and the similarities, etc. Or it might be just a data set within a spreadsheet or something that you want to analyze. It could be anything specifically that was a one-off that you want it to work on. The other context example is the backstory. So again, if you were to talk to an employee and you said, go and write me a blog about whatever topic, they would go and do it, but it probably wouldn't be particularly great because you would have had in mind a lot more than just write me a blog. You would have wanted that blog for a specific reason, and you would want it to have achieved certain things or be about certain thing. And so the context chapter is all about giving the AI that backstory. Why do you want it to do this thing that you want it to do? What do you want it to achieve? And if it can understand that context, then it's going to give you a much better result. The task is literally the actual task. So you've given it its role to play, you've given it the backstory, you've given it the data, then you're saying, now do this. So that's the simplest part. Examples could include, well, let's say you wanted to write a report or you want the AI to build you a report. And let's say historically you've written a lot of these reports before and you're quite happy with the structure that you've used. Then on that basis, you've got loads of examples that you can use to coach and teach the AI exactly what you want. So in that instance, you would use the example section to feed it an example and then say, write me a report. Here's an example of how I want it to look, but based on this data. And the last, and that's entirely optional. You might not have examples. Equally, you might have examples, but think, it's time for a change. Let's see what AI can come up with. Maybe it'll be better than what we've done historically. And then the last one is the restriction side of things, which and neither of these two last ones are essential, but they do have their uses. The restrictions I tend to not run initially when I'm kind of doing a live prompt. And I'll look at the results. And if there are things that are appearing in there that I don't like, then I'll start to build those in to kind of dial them out. Um, but if you then think about, let's say we're creating an automated tool that watches for specific types of emails with keywords in them or key questions, and you want it to automatically reply on your behalf, whether that actually fires the email back in a live sense or whether it just drops into your outbox to just be more efficient for your time. If you think about what happens when you write a prompt into any language model, it will normally say, if you say, right, reply to this email for me saying yes, it would normally say something like, sure, I can help you with that. And it would give you the thing. And then at the end of it, it would say, hopefully this achieves what you set out to. Would you like me to make any changes? Now, if you were to just build the prompt saying reply to this email, then that's what would ultimately get sent to the person that sent you the email, which obviously would be a bit embarrassing. So when you're automating prompts, that's when you would start to use restrictions quite a lot more to make sure that they don't include any of the prequel or intros or extras kind of aspects of the prompt, and they just concentrate on the body, if that makes sense. So yeah, make a note of that, take a screenshot, try it out, and I'm pretty confident that if you're not using some kind of structure already, that you'll find this unlocks another level of your ability to get what you want from language models and AI in general. Hopefully that helps. Going back to the AI literacy side of things, though, it's not just about prompt engineering or prompting skills or understanding. It's also about your mindset associated with AI, because AI can only be as good as the opportunity that you give it. So what I would like to do is effectively lay down a challenge, which is every time you're faced with a a roadblock, a problem, maybe just try and get into the habit of thinking AI first, because this is a new world that requires new habits. And yeah, AI can only be as good as the opportunity you give it. So when you have those problems, whether it's in business or outside of business, maybe just think, how can AI help me with this? Lastly, AI tools. So there are loads of specialist tools out there, and I'm really, really empathetic to the fact that everyone is being shot blasted with AI this, AI that at the moment, and it's pretty overwhelming. And 90% of it probably is people effectively jumping on the bandwagon and claiming something that is AI and really powerful and helpful that maybe isn't, maybe is kind of just piggybacking off AI. I can give you an example straight away, which is a lot of CRM systems are now pulling AI technology or capability into the CRM. But it's not very good because you can't control the prompt. You're relying on their prompt engineering, which is one size fits all. And certainly the recruitment businesses I was involved with, we tried it out, but threw it out very quickly because by taking that information into an AI model manually took split seconds, but you could then control it much better, get much better results. So our job now is to, for our clients, try and thin down a list of pre-qualified, really, really great, genuine AI tools that can, transform your processes internally, add loads of value, that are easy enough to get behind, that are not particularly expensive. A lot of them are actually free. And what we'll do is we'll send you an email with that AI tools list after this webinar as well. So have an explore of that, click on a few links, play about with a few different things. Love to know how you get on with them, whether if there's anything I can help with, and which ones you like. And yeah, but we've kind of broken them down into use cases, but you'll know that everything on that list is tried and tested and is kind of the latest and greatest and gold standard for each model. It's not a big list because we want to make sure that it's time efficient, and we're leading you to the good stuff as quickly as we can, really. Right. This is where I need to jump out of this screen, and try and bring So what I'd like to do now, effectively, is give you there's so many things that we could demo on this call. We haven't got much time, so I picked one. I was tempted to show you AI like avatar lifelike video generation, um, which is a really cool thing to do, and certainly on our AI courses we spend a bit of time looking at that. But what we'll do is we'll use a live phone agent, which I think might get people thinking about different use cases and seems to be quite popular at the moment. So this is a piece of software called Vappy, and it is obviously this is the window that we're looking into at the moment, but it's stitched to a load of other pieces of software. It's not particularly time intensive to do, and so it's not especially expensive to set up. And the example that I'm going to give you is for a waste management company which hire out skips. Um, the owner of this business approached us because they had a problem whereby they have a small call center. Most of their calls come in first thing in the morning. Some of them come in before their team arrives, so they're missing business there, and they know that they don't get those calls back necessarily because they'll just phone the next company and the next company. Sometimes they get more calls than they can handle internally in the busy period in the morning, but then it tapers off during the day. And then, of course, they've got an expensive workforce that's in some cases standing around, not really having a great deal to do. So their challenge to us was, can you come up with a far more cost-efficient solution? This is very much in build at the moment. I can only show you things that are in test mode because these are interactive systems that trigger invoices and all sorts of other things. So I can't show you a live one. It's in build. There will be some gremlins. It will come up some pricing, which isn't real pricing. So bear with me. It's always fun doing a live demo, but hopefully you'll be able to hear the call all right.
Hello, this is Sam from Waste Management Group. I'm here to help you. How may I assist you today?
Hi, Sam. I wanted to inquire about hiring a skip for a home project, if possible.
Sure, I'd be happy to help. Let's go through the details so we can get everything arranged smoothly. What size bin would you like to hire? If you're unsure, I can help you choose the right size. Here's a quick guide. 2 yards, small cleanups. 3.5 yards, small home projects. 6 yards, medium-sized waste.
Well,
8 yards.
it's probably worth saying it's just a bathroom renovation, so it's not a huge project that we're working on. Probably just the smallest skip that you do.
Got it. For a bathroom renovation, a 2-yard skip should be sufficient. Where would you like us to deliver the bin? Please provide the postcode.
Postcode is NR347AB.
Thank you. Just to confirm, the postcode is NR347AB, is that correct?
Yes.
Give me a moment. Checking. Great news. The 2 yards bin is available for hire. The price is £15. Let's continue with the order details. Can I have your delivery address now?
Yeah, it's 8 Thorn Road, NR347AB.
Thank you. Just to confirm, your address is 8 Thorn Road, NR347AB. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. When would you like the bin to be delivered?
As soon as possible, really. I certainly need it by the weekend, by Friday.
Got it. We'll schedule the delivery for Friday. May I have your full name, please?
Yeah, Simon Berry.
Thank you. Just to confirm, your name is Simon, Sierra, India, Mike, Oscar, November, Barry.
Right. I'll stop it there just because I'm conscious of time and try and get back to the presentation. Yeah, so I was keen to show you that. So there's a few things to point out. We're using one of the more cost-effective voices at the moment, which is obviously an American accent. The client will ultimately choose their favored voice, which will be a British accent. It'll be a little bit more lifelike and characterful, but that puts sort of a cost on it. So when we're testing it, then it keeps it cheaper. But there's a few things going on there. It's interactive in the sense that it's looking up information, it's quoting, so that the bin cost is influenced by the well, firstly, location. So depending on how far away they have to take it, that has an impact. And then from there, I think they need, there's a few, well, obviously size impacts the cost of it as well. So it's kind of cross-referencing a few things to interactively quote. And then book that in. And then if I was to finish that off, it would then effectively say that the order is confirmed. It would send an email to me, having taken my email address. It would send an email to me with a payment link so I could confirm the booking and so on and so forth. So hopefully that will solve this person's challenge. Unfortunately for the call center staff, obviously that's going to have an impact on them, but it's going to be a fraction of the cost. And if it's set up so that if it does go wrong, if there's a question that can't be answered by the call operator, then it'll just put someone through. And there's so many different use cases for this kind of technology as well. You could set it up however you like. We've got another company that uses it only out of hours, and we've got one company that uses it anytime, but only if they haven't been able to answer it themselves, first of all. So they'd much rather answer it themselves. And then we've got other examples where people would like that to be the first port of call. It can sift out sales calls and not put them through. And it can take messages as well. So if any of you are using an outsourced answering service, for example, and those answering services they're quite expensive. They don't really have any information about your business. They can't answer any questions. They can just take a message. Then the reality is I think this is a much more interactive, informative solution that's much more controllable, and you've got lots of different options that you can set it up with. So yeah, just hopefully that's kind of food for thought of how that might work for you as a business. How are we doing for time? 45 minutes. So I want to show you a couple of automations quickly. Because this is where effectively you can take AI and put it on steroids. You can build almost like digital employees that do a job for you, however simple or complex that might be. This actually is so a piece of software called make.com, which is one of a handful of different AI tools that we use for different use cases. And in this instance, this is interacting with, not that particular example you just seen, but it's interacting with a voice phone operator. And its purpose really is to kind of just take messages. No one leaves voicemails anymore. This company just wanted to kind of force the issue. So if someone to say, how can I help? And they might say, oh, I wanted to speak to Kevin. Oh, Kevin's not available at the moment. Can I get a message to him? Yep, sure. I was calling about this. And it would take the information, it would take the email address and phone number. It would take the reason for the call, and it would fire the intended caller, in this case Kevin, an email saying, right, Simon's just called. He was hoping to speak to you about X. Can you give him a call back? Let's show you a couple of other examples. How are we doing for time? So this one's a business researcher. What's worth pointing out here is, so this is for a company that knows that their new business opportunity comes from acquisitions, buying and selling companies, but also very, very senior members of the board moving around from company to company as well. So we've created a little researcher that goes and watches the internet for those events so that they don't have to pay someone to do that manually every day. What I will do is point out that this one is using a model called Perplexity, which is the only one really that can reliably use current web information, because most, if not all of the others, are only trained up to a point. And that's not to say that the likes of ChatGPT wouldn't be able to tell you who the president of the United States is right now correctly, but that's where it flicks into the retrieval AI mode rather than the generative AI mode. And it's only really Perplexity that's able to build really good content for you. So this effectively goes and finds that information and then sends an email daily saying, right, this is what's going on in the industry. This is the news that you want to see. This is where your opportunities lie. This one is using the same software. I've just kind of cut a screenshot out of here. So the trigger with this one is it starts by watching a spreadsheet. And when a new row comes in or on a set schedule, it will write a really, really good quality blog that's optimized for search engine optimization. So again, Kevin, you mentioned that you are interested in, and some of your clients are interested in ways to generate new leads, I think this is a really useful one. So I'm not an expert on SEO, but I do know a few basic things. And obviously, as business owners or leaders, you will know and have a rough idea of what people are searching for on Google, that you want to appear relative to. And obviously, you want to be on the front page of Google. So search engine optimization or AdWords, if not, is the way forward with that. But the way to get better rankings is to build relevant, good quality content, which takes time, and but not anymore, because you can create an automation that does all that for you. So what this does is it takes your keywords or keyword strings. In this instance, we're using Anthropic instead of OpenAI, and their Claude 3.7 model is like the gold standard when it comes to copywriting. So if you want to build a social media post wording, or you want to build content for your website, I'd highly recommend checking out Claude, because it is absolutely, where it's at in terms of quality content at the moment. So we're using that one. Basically, it takes that search string, it comes up with a content idea, builds a sort of a top level part of that blog, and then kind of goes into more detail in part 2, and then more detail again in part 3, which is kind of a legitimate, logical way of using repetition quite a lot, which will help with search engines. It builds a load of internal links as well, to which apparently is kind of key for search engine optimization. Gives the blog a title, and then automatically posts that straight onto the website, and that will happen 3 times a week, and it will just quite consistently build up. Google will perceive that website to become a really powerful thought leader on that topic, and then start ranking it. So yeah, if you're paying a lot of money for search engine optimization, and I know a lot of companies are paying thousands a month for this, I wouldn't say this would replace all of that, but it can do an awful lot of the lifting for you. So it's something to think about that might save you some serious money and/or increase your rankings. Now flip past that one because we're limited for time, and I want to focus on lead gen really. So this is a social media automation. Again, it starts with a spreadsheet with a social media idea or topic. It will then use, again, Perplexity to explore that topic in today's environment, if you like, find trending topics. It then throws it back to ChatGPT to build the blog, or that's on the blog, the social media article. It will then create an image. We weren't using ChatGPT for images because it really had got left behind. But as of last week, it's bang up to date again and doing some brilliant imagery. So that's back in. So we then got a social media content and image. And from there, it splits it up and sends it to all of your different social media channels. You can put a pause in there as well, obviously, if you want to check what it is before it goes live, which would be sensible. But it also then customizes it for the different channels. So for example, Facebook might have different image dimensions than LinkedIn, or one of them might need different hashtags, or different components that will optimize those things. So it just automates that process. And I know that a lot of businesses kind of completely get that value from social media comes through consistency and repetition, but a lot of people just don't see the results quick enough before then burning out and having to apply that time elsewhere. So this can fill in the gaps. It won't be the full answer, because quality social media will always need to be more personable. So your super posts you can do manually, but this will do a lot of the heavy lifting and fill in the blanks for you, and just keep that vocal market message going for you while you're asleep, basically. Right, I'm going to pull out of here just to open it back up and see if there are any questions. The other stuff that I was going to talk about was on the strategy side of things. But in the interest of time, and we'll try and keep it as interactive as possible, because I'm conscious I've been talking for a while. What I will do, though, is just kind of point out a couple of things. So we will send you a few giveaways. The first of which is the hot AI tools list. So please check that out. It'll come to you via email. The next is I'm going to send you a tool which will help you build hyper custom client proposals. And the way that works is effectively it's a prompt, an advanced prompt, and it will explain how you will go and grab details about a service or a product that you have, and then information about a target client, and then you paste that information into the prompt and run it, and then it will generate a hyper personalized client proposal for you, which I just think is a good example of kind of for some of you seeing the next level of advanced prompts and what might be possible with a longer prompt and putting more information in as well. So hopefully you'll find that helpful. And then lastly, just a small pitch, but also hopefully an opportunity for some of you as well. TechBake, obviously, we run various different things. We build some of these automations for clients, either custom use cases, or we're building up a lot of templates as well. So by being a client of ours, we will happily hand out all of these templates for people to have a go at tweaking themselves, and we can support the rollout of that, or we can be more formally involved. But really, we want to make sure that we're upskilling people's understanding and usage and supporting people, not just with what's possible now, but becoming an ongoing affordable partner that can keep you abreast of all of these changes and make sure that you're staying ahead of the curve, and gaining that unfair advantage, which is the power of up-to-date AI opportunity and use cases, really. The starting point for that, we think, we've designed a thing called AI in a Box, which is a one-day super interactive hands-on training course. And the next one is on April the 9th, which is a week today. It's at New Place Hotel, which is just outside of Southampton. It's a full day, 2-course lunch included, and by the end of that day, you'll have the ability to much more better understand, how you can take this forward. We're going to spend a lot of time looking at your overall business strategy and working back from the value that you deliver as a company to make sure that you're using the right AI. You're spending your time on the right areas, embedding AI in a valuable way, rather than kind of getting lost with it or overwhelmed by it, or working on things that just aren't the right areas to focus on. We have a couple of places left, but because it's quite last minute, we've put quite a big discount on that because we really want to fill it up. It's kind of limited to about 10 people anyway, because we want to make sure that we've got a lot of focus on the people in the room and we can really help and work on your business specifically. Normally it's priced at 647, but with this coupon code here, which is Web APR 297, that brings the price right down to less than half, which is 297. It's worth also saying that it's not just the training courses. You will have access to our online community, all of our templates, all of our training guides, loads of valuable input in there. You'll get a one-to-one conversation following that course as well with myself, so we can look at your specific business in more detail, pick up on any things that you've been working on off the back of the course, and just try and push forward in general, really. Right, let me see if I can stop sharing my screen, and we'll see if we've got any questions.
Super, thanks, Simon. We did have one question from Mark, which I think is it Aniket answered about Synthesizer is the best AI video generative tool that you've used.
Yeah, Synthesia. Yeah, close.
Synthesia, yeah.
Yeah, Synthesia is fantastic. Aniket is absolutely bang on there. There's another one called HeyGen as well, which is slightly different, but also very, very good. They both effectively help you create image. You take video footage of yourself, which then you can turn into a lifelike avatar, which will look and sound like you. And you can create videos by typing a script, or even asking AI to create a script for you, and then giving your avatar that script, which it will then deliver faultlessly, without all the ums and ahs that I do in real life sequences.
Yeah. So I quite from the models you were showing there, you were actually using multiple AI engines to work together to produce an end result, which was quite creative. So do you actually build the bit that links the two together? Is that part of what you offer?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll do one or two things. We'll try and help people understand how they can start to approach that themselves, but it's kind of on the I, it's not the easiest thing to do. So if people want to do it themselves and have that interest in learning, then we'll happily support that and offer that training. But most people of a certain level in business, it's just not the right use of their time. It's much more valuable to just get someone else to do it, whether that's us or anyone else really that has that skill set built up already and can do it, yeah, without trying to pull your hair out in the process.
Yeah, cool. And then Electro Gear said, can AI help with PPC instead of as well, I say instead of as well as SEO? How is it sort of looking on that sort of side of things? Because I asked you that question as well, wasn't it? Was can it help us identify what particular keywords that most people are searching for and what price we should be paying for it?
Absolutely. We'd need the data. So this isn't an area of my specialism, but so if we can if we can access the data as a starting point, then it could do one of a handful of things. I think one is to expand on those those search string opportunities. So if we've got a broad area that we're exploring, but we want to take that more granular, then it can be an engine to create lots of search strings in volume. And I dare say, I can't say for sure, but relatively confidently, I can say that we would be able to integrate with a pay-per-click software to get AI to effectively drive the pay-per-click software to come up with those search strings based on current trends, what's popular, what's being searched for. What I don't know is exactly where we'd get that data for, but if people have a working knowledge around pay-per-click, then if they can answer that question, then yes, absolutely, we could automate a lot of that process.
Yeah. So I mean, that was the big thing I got from this was it's only as good as the data it can access. So if you can put data into these models, then it can actually learn from that side of things. So cool. Is anybody, rather than type in the chat box, anybody like to raise their hand and come off mute to ask a question? Paul?
I've got a quick question. Yeah, thanks, Si. The blog writing, my background is law, so we're very much interested in UK law.
Right.
Is there an issue with some of the AI out there that it's very Americanized and therefore can you separate it for what you want from a UK perspective? Because we do have some blog writers done work for us before, and it's pretty clear at times they're just Googling, and what happens is they end up sending us a blog that isn't relevant for either the UK law or something specifically what we're doing, and it's picking up a lot of Americanized type work.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we think back to that prompt structure, then there'd be the components in there that I'd want to control the results that you're getting. With the restriction section, yeah, it's a really common frustration. Americanized language, trunk not boot, specialized with a Z not an S, etc. It's an obvious flag that something's AI derived, especially in a UK environment. But yeah, you can dial that out through restrictions. You can certainly focus its attention on UK law, and just get more granular with the prompts that you're asking as well. So again, it's just worth investing that little bit more mental energy and time to go through, almost break it into two stages. So either you've got an idea of exactly what you want the blog to be about, in which case, explain it in as much detail as you can and take control of it. Or if you're not sure, then add a component, a separate project on the front, which would just be to use it as that thought leader and help it, between the two of you come up with ideas for blogs which are relevant to your target market.
And something like Claude would be able to do that if you put the.
Yes. So if you want current topics, I would always suggest Perplexity until the other models start to evolve and catch up. And Perplexity isn't a language model in its own right. It is more, it actually uses all the other language models, and you can select which language model you want within Perplexity to do the generation side. But it somehow just seems to be able to get much better results with its retrieval AI tech, and then dovetailing that with the generative side. So if you, yeah, I would say go and get the ideas from Perplexity and then throw them into a Claude for the quality of writing once you've understood what you want.
Okay, and I mean, is that because there's a lot more American? I mean, whether they're ahead of the game or not, I suspect probably not. But is there more out there from America as a percentage of what's available from a sort of UK perspective?
In terms of its knowledge base, do you mean?
Yeah,
Um, I honestly don't know. But truth be told, I don't think it matters because it's down to the user to tell it what you want.
right.
So if you tell it you're not interested in the American market and you only want, UK case law, you want it to be, however you would describe it, to channel it and make sure it's focused and it knows what you want it to do, then whether it's America or anywhere else in the world, that all becomes irrelevant once you restrict it.
I mean, my experience of that is, if you're talking to somebody that's just been brought up with UK knowledge, that's what they're going to give you. You've got to treat AI as this is a global knowledge bank. So
Mm,
your restrictions have to become a lot tighter. And that's where the effort, I think, goes into is almost being clear what you don't want rather than just what you do want. And that's where some of the work comes in. So yeah, and unless you can again have trained your AI bot to be able to do that already.
mm,
And I think where we are, it's you've got to assume it's a massive data pool that it's pulling in from, and your job is to do the restrictions on it.
correct. Yeah. And you're right, you can pre-train it, particularly so, for $20 a month, you can have AI, or ChatGPT Pro, I think it's called, which is a whole nother level of, compared to the free side of things, but you
I mean,
can create.
that's what I was going to ask because for me,
Mm,
there's algorithms which you've had for years, which basically if this, do this, and it's a fairly linear process. For me, true AI is where it has the ability to learn. So you're not telling it what to do; it learns as it goes.
mm.
Where are we with these things at the moment? On let's say scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being human ability to learn and AI where it is at the moment. Where would you say we're sitting currently?
Probably about 50.
On its
Um,
ability to learn, yeah.
well, yes. So it has learning superpowers that it will, completely, not even comparable to humans, where it just is so far ahead. But it has other areas where it can't compete. I think again, it's this data cutoff issue. It's trained on data sets up to a point, so that's its knowledge base. Um, what it doesn't do is it doesn't learn. So I think one common misconception is people will think, oh, I don't want to put this into AI. I don't want to share it with ChatGPT or whatever because then that will get added to its knowledge pool and other people will be able to use that. That's not how it works at all. Your information is extremely safe within AI. It's not to say that it won't ever be seen by a human because they do their quality checks, etc. every now and again, but it doesn't add to the knowledge base. That's kind of locked off. So when you're teaching AI, you're teaching it in a closed environment about your information. But it will learn about your information instantly. If you want it to be, so for example, if you've got like we had in one business a massive staff handbook with loads of information in it. It's like a 60-70 page document. Dragged and dropped that into an AI based chatbot which people could use internally, and then you could ask it any question you liked within seconds. It would just say, right, yep, I've got it. And you could ask it any question you would like about that handbook, and it would instantly recall that information and not just repeat it, but summarize it and show a deeper understanding of it, if that makes sense.
And so if we put that, say, put my staff handbook into ChatGPT, would that be in ChatGPT for everybody? to
No,
access that data? Or how do I know that it's segmented to me, or is
to
that the
just you.
advanced version?
Well, what you can do is you can look at you know their data security documentation and understand their reassurances in detail. Um, how do you know? I don't know if you ever will know. And my kind of best practice advice is always look, if it's super valuable, if it's if it's something that is your design that's going to be worth millions and millions in the future, then probably don't share it on ChatGPT. But if it's just general business processes and systems, what have you got to lose? And from a GDPR perspective, yes, if it's hypersensitive information that could cause people harm if it fell into the wrong hands, then yeah, I wouldn't put it in there. But generally speaking, it's all very secure. And no, it doesn't get shared with anybody else. It doesn't add to that knowledge base. Um, with ChatGPT, when you pay the $20 a month version, you get to create what's called custom chats, which effectively is a way of teaching um, a little corner within ChatGPT where you teach it about a certain thing. So, for example, in my ChatGPT, I've got one which is a clone of me, which knows. So I've done a psychometric profile on myself, so it understands my style of language, my way of thinking. It knows my CV, if you like, so it knows stereotypically what my knowledge base should be, and I've fed it a load of information about all of our internal processes and systems and sales documentation and brochures, and it can then answer an awful lot of questions on my behalf, but I can also ask it. If I'm feeling tired or not particularly creative, I can jump on there and get me to do the work, the digital me to do the work for me, if that makes sense. But in a way that I would have done it myself if I had the time or the energy to do it. Equally, you could create, and what you can do is you can share these things or not. So you can make them public via a link, or you can share them with specific people, or you can keep them closed environment and not shared with anybody. So you have control
So
over.
going back to Paul's thing, he could train his part of ChatGPT just to focus on UK law, and because that's
Correct.
my whole thing is training is I tell you once and then you learn, and I don't have to tell you again. At the
Yeah.
moment, I'm using it, I feel like I have to keep telling them every
Yeah.
time to
That
do it a certain way.
yeah, that is the single biggest benefit to the paid for version.
Yeah.
Exactly that. You tell it once and it's got it. And I think what catches people out is all these language models, they have their knowledge base, which is their long-term memory, and then they have their short-term memory, which is effectively what you put in that conversation, whether it's the prompt or it's the history of that conversation. But its memory isn't as long as people think, so it can forget the top of the conversation quite quickly. But if you go for the paid for version, its contextual short-term memory is much greater,
Yeah.
and it will lock down those so you can if we had more time, I could show you, but you effectively you save those documents or you copy and paste information in, it then has it for good, and then every time you go to that particular custom chat, it will always have that knowledge available for you.
Simon, just a quick question on that. Do you know how long the short-term memory actually is?
It's not so much time, but more volume of data. Do I know how long it is? Well, we get a bit technical at that point. It's measured in what's called tokens, and I think I think ChatGPT is about 4,500 tokens, which is probably about up to about 1,200 words, something like that,
Okay,
realistically.
perfect. Thank you.
That's a really rough rule, and it depends on circumstances and stuff. But if you want much
Thank you.
longer short-term memory for free, then check out Gemini, because that's got a much bigger token base, so it can cope with bigger documents or longer term, longer conversations, etc., without losing sight of the first part of it.
Thank
So
you.
when you said that number of tokens, is that for the free version of
Yes.
ChatGPT? So, but the
Again, you'll
paid
always
version is a lot longer than that, a lot more
correct.
data than
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any other questions from anybody? No. Cool. Well, look, I mean, that's what your course is for next week, is to go in a lot more detail and to sort of build this. I think one of the big things is, a lot of us are probably sitting here, we don't know what we don't know. So it's very difficult to ask a question on that.
Yes.
And I think sometimes you've got to go through that play phase of, well, what if it could do this? A bit like you've shown with the voice side of things, the chat. How long does that take to create that type of thing? Sort of the response for the skip hire.
That would be a question for Annika, who you mentioned earlier on, who leads our development work. I'm not sure how many hours, and it really does depend on the detail. So
Yeah,
we can create. So we have a version of that, which is a relatively simple, not off the shelf one, but we don't charge any upfront development work. We can deliver that for I think it's £97 a month on an ongoing basis. If people want that as a service, we and if people want more custom, so that would basically just it'd answer the phone, do a really detailed FAQ, which doesn't take long to set up at all. As long as people have got that information and they've got the answers they can give us, then we can set that up relatively quickly. And there is some usage costs, but they're very minimal. So yeah, it's quite affordable to do at a basic level. And then how much it costs or how much time it takes to develop for those custom features is entirely dependent on how complicated it gets, I guess.
yeah,
So one thing one of our core products is a subscription model, which is designed to kind of use the compound effect over time, because no one's going to be able to completely redesign their business around AI overnight, and nor should they try. But by working consistently piece by piece and picking the right projects and just chipping away, then in 6 months' time, people will have a business which is saving them a huge amount of costs, or
mm,
increasing customer experience, etc. So we've created a model in and around that philosophy. And as part of that model, so it starts at 297 per month. It includes AI in a box. All of our courses are kind of satisfaction guaranteed. So if people feel they don't get value from it, then we'll refund it. We never tie anyone into any long-term contracts, so it's just month by month. And our aim is to deliver as much value as we possibly can, so they never want to leave. And that responsibility is on us. But within that subscription, we can start to help people roll out, kind of simple versions of these. They're not simple, they're really, really cool advanced pieces of kit, but they're not hyper customized. So we can roll that out fairly quickly. And if they want to add features, then we can try and do that over time as part of the subscription. Or if it's that much more complicated or needs to be expedited quickly, then we'd quote project by project, I guess.
yeah. And if somebody wanted to sort of just put their toe in the water and get started, is there a particular area of the business you think, that's a bit of a no-brainer to get cracking with that side of it?
That's a good question. I really think it just depends on the person, and it depends what level they're at already. We had so I can think of a conversation I had with one user recently, and she did the AI in a Box course, and the thing she came away with, she said, look, I really wanted to do more on social media, but I didn't have the confidence, and using AI now has given me the confidence to build stuff that I'm happy to post, and she's posting a lot. So I think it really does. It's a personal thing. It depends what people, obviously Paul's got a specific frustration with the UK law component there. I think it really just depends I guess it goes back to that core thing that I see people getting wrong, which is rather than go at it from a perspective of what could AI do, or what are the obvious things that I should be doing with AI, it should always, for me, start with what is the business, what's the end value that you deliver, and work back from there and kind
Yeah.
of think, okay,
What's your biggest, I suppose, in a way, what's your biggest frustration that, you know, that you want to get off your plate? I think for me, a lot of it is content. It's how do I put enough content that has a minimum amount of my time, and that's where my focus with it has been. That I can write a blog now in 10 minutes, whereas it would probably take me 2 hours before. So
yeah.
uh,
My biggest benefit is there are a lot of emails that if you're empathetic to the person you're sending it to, you want to get the wording just right, and it can take quite a lot of time to even write a short email to just get it right. And actually, I'm finding it much quicker to just say, right, this is what I want to say. I want to say no, but I want to say it in this specific
just
way.
be blunt, Simon. It's so far easier.
Yeah,
Put a
maybe.
smiley face at the end of it, and it solves every problem you've
Smiley
got.
face does everything, yeah.
Cool. Well, look, I'm conscious of time. Thanks for staying on, guys. And say the recording is there. Simon will get an email out to everybody with those offers, and they say the course is next Wednesday, the 9th at New Place Hotel, just up towards Winchester. So thanks for your time, Simon.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you very much for the
There you
opportunity.
go. There's the offer again if you want to take us a shot of that, but it'll be on the email that we send out to everybody as well. So and this recording, I'll upload this to YouTube as well, and so if you want to go back and watch any particular part, then please do.
Great.
So thanks, guys.
Thanks again,
Nice
Kevin.
to see you. See you, Simon.
Thank you very much,
Take care.
Simon. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.